The Cosmic Awakening. The Galactic Federation had stood for 12,000 years, uniting over 300 sentient species across 17 spiral arms of the Milky Way. Their civilization had weathered cosmic storms, survived supernova, and negotiated peace between ancient enemies. Yet nothing had prepared them for the Void Devourers. They came from beyond the galactic rim, entities of crystalline darkness that consumed light, matter, and life itself. Their ships, if they could be called such, were massive geometric structures that defied conventional physics, impervious to energy weapons and capable of absorbing devastating impacts without damage. In the Grand Council chamber of the Federation's capital world Luminaris, Supreme Administrator Zorix gazed at the holographic display with compound eyes that reflected the red markers of fallen worlds. Another system lost, the insectoid leader announced, mandibles clicking in distress. Proxima Centauri has fallen. The evacuation fleet saved less than 40% of the population. The assembled representatives of member worlds murmured in dismay. 17 systems had fallen in as many cycles, and the Federation's vaunted defenses, technological marvels refined over millennia, proved ineffective against the invaders. The Void Devourers adapt to every strategy, General Thalos of the Centaurian Defense Force said, his azure skin darkening with emotion. They learned from each encounter, developing countermeasures against our weapons within hours. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Unlike the other representatives with their various alien physiologies, this one had a distinctly mammalian appearance, bipedal with smooth skin and a mane of dark hair. Perhaps, Ambassador Kira Nomura said, "You've been fighting this war with the wrong warriors." All eyes turned to the human, one of only 3 representatives from Earth, a planet so recently discovered that most Federation species still considered it primitive, barely worth the diplomatic outreach. "Your species has barely achieved interstellar travel," scoffed Delegator Vrex, the serpentine representative from Sirius. "Your weapons are crude. Your ships are slow. What could humans possibly offer against an enemy that defies our most advanced technology?" Nomura activated her own holo display, projecting images that made several council members recoil. Scenes of human history, wars, battles, conflicts from primitive club-wielding tribes to modern combat footage. While your civilizations evolved toward harmony, humans evolved through conflict, she said calmly. "We are the only known species that has never experienced a century without war. We've developed weapons not just to protect but to conquer. We don't merely defend, we annihilate threats." "This is barbaric," gasped a luminescent delegate from the Regilian Consortium. "This is survival," Nomura countered. "And it's exactly what the Federation needs now." 3 days later, Captain Ilara Chen stood on the observation deck of the Federation vessel Harbinger, watching Earth recede into the distance. At 34, she had spent 15 years in Earth's unified defense forces, commanding special operations teams in the resource conflicts of the mid-22nd century. Now she led 200 of humanity's finest soldiers on a mission beyond anything they had trained for. "Beautiful view," said a voice behind her. Chen turned to find Science Officer Malik Rahman joining her at the viewport. "I never thought I'd see it from this distance," she admitted. "When the Federation made contact 2 years ago, I was still hunting extremists in the Atlantic undersea colonies." Rahman nodded. "And now we're heading to fight aliens that eat stars. Life takes strange turns." The journey to the Federation command station took just under 12 hours, a miracle of alien technology that compressed light years into moments through quantum folding. When they emerged, the 200 human warriors got their first glimpse of the true scale of the Federation. The station orbited a binary star system, a massive structure that dwarfed anything humans had built. Ships of countless designs moved in coordinated patterns around it, some organic-looking with curves and tendrils, others geometric perfection, still others defying human comprehension entirely. General Thalos greeted them personally, towering over even the tallest humans at nearly 8 feet. His translator converted his harmonic speech into understandable English. Captain Chen, welcome to Arcturus Command. I wish the circumstances of our meeting were more favorable. Chen saluted, a gesture her diplomatic briefing had confirmed was understood across species. We're ready to deploy immediately, General. My people have studied the combat data you provided. Indeed. Thelos gestured them toward a briefing chamber. But first, you must understand what you face. The Void Devourers have destroyed our most elite combat units. The Vrexian Dominion lost their legendary third battle fleet without inflicting a single casualty on the enemy. The briefing room displayed three-dimensional footage of previous encounters. Chen and her officers watched intently as formidable alien warships dissolved under attacks from the geometric obsidian structures. The Devourers seemed to anticipate every tactic, countering strategies before they fully deployed. They predict patterns, Chen observed. They analyze your attack algorithms and generate perfect counters. Fellows nodded grimly. Our combat systems are heavily automated, designed for maximum efficiency. For millennia, this approach proved superior. Chen exchanged glances with her second-in-command, Major Diana Jackson. Then we'll need to be inefficient, Jackson said with a slight smile. Humans excel at that. The integration of human forces into Federation military structure proved challenging. The aliens had evolved toward perfect coordination, with neural links and shared consciousness during combat operations. Humans, with their individual decision-making and intuitive responses, disrupted these systems. Your soldiers refused to sync with the combat mesh, complained Commander Zolox, a cybernetically enhanced being responsible for tactical operations. How can we coordinate if they won't connect? We don't operate that way, Chen explained. Each of my people makes moment-to-moment decisions based on training and instinct. That unpredictability is our strength. It is chaos, Xylox countered. Exactly, Chen said with a predatory smile. And chaos is exactly what the Void Devourers can't predict. Their first deployment came sooner than expected. The Federation colony at Epsilon Indi reported Devourer vessels entering the system. The Harbinger, retrofitted with human-compatible systems, was dispatched with a Federation support fleet. As they approached, Science Officer Raman studied the enemy formations. They're moving in perfect geometric patterns, mathematical precision. Too perfect, Chen noted. Major Jackson, prepare the drop teams. We're going to introduce some human variables to their equation. The human strategy was unlike anything the Federation had attempted. Rather than engaging with capital ships and the elegant space ballet that had defined galactic warfare for millennia, the humans deployed small, agile insertion craft directly toward the massive Devourer vessels. They're on suicide trajectories, gasped a Federation commander on the command channel. Just watch, Chen replied calmly. The insertion craft didn't impact as expected. Instead, they executed last-second maneuvers that defied predictive algorithms, attaching to the Devourer vessels like parasites. From each craft emerged human soldiers in advanced combat exoskeletons, moving across the alien hulls. What are they doing? Demanded General Thelos, watching from the command ship. The answer came moments later as explosions erupted across the geometrically perfect surfaces of the Devourer ships. The humans had identified and targeted what appeared to be junction points in the crystalline structures, vulnerabilities that the Federation's sophisticated scanning had never detected. We don't overthink, Chen explained as the first Devourer vessel began to fracture. We observe, we adapt, we exploit. Your civilizations evolved beyond the killer instinct. Humans refined it. The battle for Epsilon Indi lasted 6 hours, the shortest engagement against the Void Devourers since their arrival. Of the 12 enemy vessels, 9 were destroyed completely. The remaining 3 retreated, something Federation forces had never before witnessed. In the aftermath, Captain Chen stood before the Federation Council, her uniform still bearing the marks of combat. Beside her stood 30 of her soldiers, all that remained of the 100 who had deployed to the surface. Their losses had been heavy, but the victory undeniable. You fought. Supreme Administrator Zorix seemed to search for words. You fought unlike any species we have encountered. We fought like humans, Chen replied simply. Your casualties were extensive, noted Delegator Vrex, who had once dismissed human potential. Such losses would be unacceptable in Federation doctrine. With respect, Chen said, your doctrine was losing this war. Humans understand sacrifice. We've built our civilization on the willingness of the few to die protecting the many. The council chambers fell silent. These aliens, who had built a utopia spanning galaxies, confronted a truth they had forgotten over millennia of peace. Sometimes survival required warriors willing to embrace darkness. Ambassador Nomura stepped forward. The battle at Epsilon Indi was just the beginning. The Void Devourers will adapt to our tactics, just as they adapted to yours. But they will discover what countless human adversaries have learned throughout our bloody history. We adapt faster. As the council deliberated, Captain Chen received the medical reports from her team. The human casualties had been grievous, yet not a single soldier questioned continuing the fight. They had seen the destruction wrought by the Void Devourers, witnessed the refugees from fallen worlds. In their eyes, this was no longer an alien war. It was humanity's war now. They're mobilizing their primary fleet, General Thelos informed Chen as they prepared for the next deployment. Our intelligence suggests they're gathering for a massive assault on the Sirius Nexus. If Sirius falls, they'll have a direct route to the core systems, including your Earth. Chen nodded, studying the tactical displays. Then Sirius is where we make our stand. Your remaining forces are insufficient, Thelos objected, even with Federation support. We'll need more humans, Chen interrupted. Not dozens or hundreds. Thousands. The General's alien features registered surprise. Your world has barely joined the galactic community. Would they commit such numbers to a distant conflict? Chen's expression hardened. When humanity faces extinction, General, you'd be surprised what we're capable of. As the Harbinger prepared for the return journey to Earth, Chen stood again at the observation port, gazing into the void where the enemy waited. The Federation had existed in relative peace for 12 millennia. Humanity had spent its entire existence preparing for this moment, though they never knew it. They were the secret warriors of the cosmos, carrying the evolutionary legacy of countless conflicts. And now, the stars themselves would witness what happened when humanity was truly unleashed. The crucible of stars. The Sirius Nexus gleamed like a jewel against the velvet backdrop of space, a massive artificial structure connecting 7 wormhole gates that served as the Federation's primary transportation hub. For 12 millennia, it had facilitated peaceful commerce and cultural exchange. Now it was the front line of a war for survival. Captain Ilara Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, largest of the newly commissioned human battleships. Behind her vessel, a fleet of 300 human warships had emerged from the Earth Gate, carrying 40,000 soldiers trained in the combat techniques that had proven effective at Epsilon Indi. Sirius Control, this is Captain Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Force. Reporting as ordered. The view screen activated, showing General Thelos' azure face. Captain Chen, your arrival is timely. Our long-range sensors detect the Void Devourer fleet approaching the outer system boundary. Their numbers are concerning. Define concerning, General, Chen replied, already accessing the tactical displays. The data transferred to her systems, and Chen felt her blood run cold. The Devourers had assembled nearly 1,000 of their crystalline vessels, far more than had been encountered in any previous engagement. They've adapted to your tactics from Epsilon Indi, Thelos continued. Analysis suggests they've reinforced their junction points and modified their approach patterns to counter your insertion strategies. Chen nodded. We expected that, General. That's why we brought some new ideas. From the moment news of the alien threat had reached Earth, humanity had mobilized with a speed and unity unprecedented in its fractious history. Ancient rivalries were set aside as the species faced its first existential threat from beyond the stars. Every industrial facility had been converted to war production, Every scientific mind focused on developing weapons effective against the Void Devourers. "Deploy the screening formation," Chen ordered, "and launch the Ravian units." The human fleet split into tactical groups, positioning themselves to protect the Nexus and the gathered Federation vessels. From the larger ships, thousands of small objects deployed, too small to be manned craft. "What are those?" asked a Federation commander over the tactical channel. "Remote autonomous versatile engagement nodes," replied Major Jackson, now commanding her own vessel. "We call them RAVENs. Think of them as electronic warfare platforms with attitude." As the Void Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace, the human forces held position. The massive black geometric shapes arranged themselves in formations of mathematical precision, their movements synchronized with unsettling perfection. "They're beautiful, in their way," commented Science Officer Raman, now stationed aboard the Defiance, "like watching death given geometric form." The RAVENs moved first, accelerating toward the enemy fleet. Too small to register as significant threats, the Devourers initially ignored them, exactly as Chen had predicted. Only when the tiny platforms began emitting targeted electromagnetic pulses did the enemy respond, but by then the RAVENs had attached themselves to dozens of the crystalline vessels. "Electronic warfare protocols engage," reported the tactical officer. "RAVENs are injecting conflicting data streams into their coordination network." For the first time, the perfectly synchronized movements of the Void Devourers faltered. Individual vessels broke formation, their responses delayed or erratic. The human fleet seized the moment, accelerating into pre-planned attack vectors. "All ships, execute Operation Thunderstrike," Chen ordered. Unlike the elegant precision attacks favored by Federation forces, human vessels struck from multiple angles simultaneously, weapons firing in seemingly random patterns that nonetheless focused devastating energy on key structural points of the enemy vessels. Where Federation doctrine called for measured, escalating responses, humans opened with maximum force. The Void Devourers adapted quickly, their vessels shifting configuration to counter the attacks. But this time, they faced an enemy that expected adaptation, that planned for it. "Second wave, deploy now," Chen commanded. From the holds of the human capital ships emerged thousands of single-pilot fighters, a concept the Federation had abandoned millennia ago as inefficient. These craft, piloted by humans whose neural patterns couldn't be predicted by the Devourer's algorithms, swarmed the larger enemy vessels like angry insects. "Our ancestors called this getting inside the enemy's decision loop," Chen explained to Thelos over the command channel. "While they're still responding to our first attack, we hit them with something completely different." The battle raged across the Sirius system, a chaotic dance of destruction, unlike anything the Federation had witnessed in its long history. Human vessels took devastating damage, but continued fighting long after Federation protocols would have called for retreat. Individual commanders made split-second decisions based on battlefield developments, creating an ever-changing tactical picture that the Void Devourers struggled to counter. 6 hours into the battle, the tide began to turn. The human fleet had lost nearly 40% of its vessels, but the Devourers had lost more, their coordinated movements increasingly erratic as the RAVENs corrupted their communication networks. That's when Chen noticed a change in the enemy's behavior. The largest Devourer vessel, a massive octahedral structure that had remained at the rear of their formation, began to pulse with energy. "All vessels, fall back to defensive positions," she ordered immediately. "Something's happening." The warning came just in time. The Devourer flagship released a wave of dark energy that rippled across space, disintegrating the nearest human ships instantly and damaging dozens more. The Federation sensors briefly went offline, their systems overwhelmed by the unknown energy signature. "They've never displayed this capability before," Thelos said, his voice tight with concern. "Our analysis suggests they're converting matter to energy at a quantum level." Chen's tactical mind worked quickly. "They're desperate. They've committed their reserve weapon because our conventional attack was succeeding. Another pulse like that will destroy half our remaining forces, Jackson warned. Raman studied the sensor readings of the enemy flagship. The energy discharge created structural weaknesses in their primary vessel, but we'd need to deliver an explosive payload directly to their core to exploit it. A suicide mission, Chen said quietly. I'll go, Jackson volunteered immediately. Chen shook her head. No, this one's mine. She turned to her executive officer. Commander Hayes, you have the Defiance. Major Jackson, coordinate the fleet. On my signal, concentrate all firepower on these coordinates. Despite protests from both her officers and General Fellows, Chen boarded a modified insertion craft equipped with an experimental quantum warhead, a weapon Earth had developed but hoped never to use. The small vessel accelerated toward the Devourer flagship, protected by a screen of fighters that drew enemy fire. The Devourers are preparing another energy pulse, Raman reported over the tactical channel. Estimated time to discharge: 3 minutes. Chen's craft wove through the chaotic battlefield, taking damage but maintaining its course. The massive octahedral structure loomed ahead, its surface rippling with dark energy as it prepared to unleash another devastating attack. I'm approaching the target zone, Chen reported. Fire distraction salvos now. The human fleet executed her order, launching a massive barrage that forced the Devourers to divert energy to defensive measures. In that moment of distraction, Chen's craft slipped through their outer defenses, approaching the pulsing core of the flagship. 30 seconds to energy discharge, Raman warned. I see the entry point, Chen replied calmly. Her small craft had taken critical damage, life support failing, engines operating at minimal capacity. But it was enough. All forces prepared to fall back on my mark. The insertion craft penetrated the crystalline surface of the Devourer flagship, diving toward its energy core. Chen's sensors detected the quantum irregularities that Raman had identified, the weakness created by the massive energy expenditure of their attack. It's been an honor, Chen transmitted as her craft reached the designated coordinates. Jackson, you have command of the expedition. Tell Earth. Tell them we held the line. She activated the quantum warhead and closed her eyes. The explosion started as a pinpoint of light at the center of the Devourer flagship. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to fold inward. The massive octahedral structure imploded, collapsing into a singularity that lasted only seconds before erupting in a blast that tore through the enemy fleet. When the energy dissipated, more than half the Devourer vessels had been destroyed. The remainder, their coordination network shattered, began to retreat in disarray, something the Federation had never before witnessed. They're running. Jackson's voice was filled with disbelief and grief. Captain Chen did it. In the aftermath, as Federation and human forces secured the Sirius Nexus and tended to their wounded, a solemn gathering took place aboard the station's central dome. Representatives from across the Federation joined the remaining human officers to honor their fallen commander. Supreme Administrator Zorix addressed the assembly, compound eyes reflecting the stars visible through the transparent dome. For 12,000 years, the Federation maintained peace through diplomacy and technological superiority. We believed warfare was a primitive state we had evolved beyond. The administrator's gaze swept over the human contingent. We were wrong. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the willingness to stand against those who would destroy it. Captain Ilara Chen and the warriors of Earth reminded us of this forgotten truth. Major Jackson stepped forward, accepting the Federation's highest honor on behalf of her fallen commander. Humans don't fight because we love war, she said. We fight because we understand its cost. Every soldier in this fleet carries the weight of Earth's violent history and the determination that arose from it. We fight so fiercely because we know exactly what's at stake. In the months that followed, the war against the Void Devourers continued, but the dynamic had fundamentally changed. The Federation incorporated human tactical doctrines into their military structure, relearning combat arts long abandoned. Human officers trained alien forces in asymmetric warfare, while Federation scientists adapted their advanced technology to human combat innovations. The Void Devourers never again mounted an offensive of the scale seen at Sirius. Their attempts to adapt to human unpredictability failed repeatedly, as each engagement brought new tactics, new technologies, new forms of warfare they couldn't anticipate. 1 year after the Battle of Sirius Nexus, a memorial was unveiled at the center of the station, a holographic projection of Captain Ilara Chen, eternally vigilant, as ships passed through the gates she had died protecting. Beneath it, inscribed in the languages of 300 worlds, were words from an ancient Earth philosopher. "We sleep safely at night because rough men and women stand ready to visit violence on those who would harm us." The Federation had rediscovered what humanity had never forgotten. Sometimes peace must be defended by warriors. And in humanity, the galaxy had found its guardians, the secret warriors of the cosmos who carried within them both the darkness of conflict and the light of sacrifice. As new human fleets deployed to the frontiers of Federation space, the Void Devourers encountered an enemy they couldn't predict or defeat, an enemy that didn't simply fight for survival, but fought with the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of warfare. An enemy willing to die so that others might live. They had awakened Earth, and the stars themselves trembled.